This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, February the 22nd, is a basketball icon who is one of the best and most influential basketball players of all time, helping the ABA, the American Basketball Association, become legitimate and a threat to the NBA. And then once the ABA merged with the NBA, he was still one of their best players. He won three titles, 4 MVP awards, 3 scoring titles in the ABA/NBA. In 16 years as a player, he never missed a postseason. The 8th highest scorer in ABA/NBA history, slam dunking from the free throw line in slam dunk contest, and being MVP in both the ABA and NBA. He's in the Hall of Fame since 1993, one of the most important athletes of all time, part of the 50th and 75th anniversary teams of all time. He is Dr. J. Julius Erving. Julius Erving was born in East Meadow, New York, and raised in Hampstead and all that. Dr. J loved to play at the Rucker Park League, which is heavily featured in NBA Street 2, which was one of my favorite games. Erving enrolled at the University of Massachusetts in 1968. In 2 varsity college basketball seasons, he scored 26 points, 20 rebounds a game, becoming one of 6 players to average more than 20 and 20 in NCAA men's basketball. He wanted to head to professional basketball in 1971 because of hardship. Erving fulfilled a promise in 1986 by earning his bachelor's degree in creative leadership from the University of Massachusetts. It was good about UMass and all that. Although NBA rules at the time didn't allow teams to draft players who were less than 4 years removed from high school, the ABA instituted a hardship rule that allowed players to leave college early. Erving took advantage of it and left UMass after his junior year to sign a 4-year deal with Virginia. So he played for Virginia. He was on the All-ABA second team and scored 27 points a game. He was second in ABA Rookie of the Year to Artis Gilmore from Kentucky. He got Virginia to the semifinals of the ABA season, but lost to the New York Nets. Well, under NBA rules, he was eligible for the 72 NBA draft, and the Bucks decided to pick him in the first round, 12th overall. So that was great. Milwaukee liked him. They wanted to bring him with Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he actually signed a contract with the Hawks worth more than $1 million. The signing with Atlanta came after a dispute with the Squires because of the renegotiation of his terms. There was a dispute between 3 teams and 2 leagues. The Bucks still had the rights to Erving via the draft, and the Squires went to court to force him to honor his contract in Virginia. But he went to the Hawks training camp. But NBA Commissioner Kennedy said that the Bucks own Erving's rights via the draft. And then there was an injunction that prohibited him from playing any team other than the Squires. All that. But he put up 31 points a game in the year despite the contract problems. Unfortunately, Virginia was cash strapped, so they had to get rid of him. And they traded him to the New York Nets. You're thinking, that doesn't make sense. The New York Nets? All will be explained. Anyway, Virginia traded Erving to the Nets in a complex deal that kept him in the ABA for 8 years. The Squires would get $750,000 appointed by the name of George Carter and the rights to Kirby Washington. The Nets also sent $425,000 to the Hawks to reimburse the team for its legal fees and all that. And Dr. J won the ABA title with the Nets over the Stars. Erving established himself as the most important player in the ABA and brought the ABA to prominence. In 1976, the NBA finally decided we need to merge with the ABA. So the Nets and Nuggets the Nets and Nuggets wanted to play before the season to bring a team to New York and Denver. Ironically enough, the Nets beat the Nuggets for the ABA title, and Irving was the MVP of the playoffs. He looked very good in every category. And let's not forget, 1976 was when the ABA decided to do a slam dunk competition, and Dr. J dunked from the free throw line. So the Nets, Nuggets, Pacers, and Spurs were coming to the NBA. So New York, Denver, Indianapolis, and San Antonio would have a team. The Nets were ready to pick up where they left off, with Irving and Tyree Archibald ready to go. However, the New York Knicks were not happy because they wanted the Nets to pay them a lot of money for invading the Knicks NBA territory because, New York Nets may have been on Long Island, but kind of avoided the territory. So the Nets had to pay $4.8 million and practically had to become the New Jersey Nets instead of the New York Nets. So anyway, Irving was not too happy with owner Roy Bones reneging on a promise to keep Irving's salary, to raise his salary. So he held out. Many teams wanted him. Milwaukee, for one, obviously, because they kind of had the NBA rights to him. The Nets actually offered Irving's contract to the Knicks in return for waiving the indemnity, but the Knicks said no way. It was a terrible mistake. The Sixers decided to offer to buy Irving's contract for $3 million and would pay the Nets the same amount as their expansion fee. And both accepted the $6 million deal. So the Nets, for all intents and purposes, traded their franchise player for a berth in the NBA. The Nets were ruined and only won 22 games. The Nets were not talked about in a positive light till 1984 when they beat the Sixers in the playoffs. Anyway, Irving became the new leader of the Sixers and helped them win 50 games. With other stars such as George McGinnis, Lloyd, aka World Be Free, and Doug Collins. He played team oriented ball and did well and all that. The Sixers were the top drawing team in the NBA thanks to Dr. J. They shocked Boston to go to the finals as the Eastern Conference champions. The Sixers took a 2-0 series lead, and it looked like Philly was going to win the title with Dr. J in their first season. However, the Blazers won 4 straight games, and the Sixers were not too happy about that. Dr. J was one of the first basketball players to endorse products and to have a shoe market under his name. He even was in the Stinker movie, The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. Anyway, Irving had to cope with a team that was not playing at his level. The Sixers did build around Dr. J, getting Mo Cheeks, Andrew Toney, and Bobby Jones added to the mix. The Sixers were still eliminated twice in the Eastern Conference Finals. However, when Larry Bird came around, it was Bird versus Irving. Celtics-Sixers rivalry was back to be revived. The Sixers and Celtics played each other in the conference finals in 80, 81, 82, and 85, with the Sixers winning, I believe, twice. Yeah. The Dr. J. Larry Bird matchup was one of the highest professional rivalries in the sport, alongside Bird versus Mac Johnson, inspiring the EA video game 101 Dr. J versus Larry Bird in 1983. The Sixers beat the Celtics in 1980 to get to the NBA Finals, and then Dr. J, in Game 4, had his famous baseline move when he did a behind-the-board reverse layup that shocked the Lakers and Brett Musburger, who was doing the game. Sadly, though, the Sixers would lose in the finals thanks to the Lakers' 6-game movement and Magic Johnson. Irving looked good. Philly had a 3-1 series lead in the 81 Eastern Finals. Were headed to the championship series, but then they choked, losing 3 straight. I mean, to give Philly credit, they only lost by 5 points combined in those 3 games, so, it was hard. They probably would have won the championship because the Western champion, Houston, were below 500. In '82, the Sixers did get to the Eastern Finals thanks to Andrew Toney's performance. And I remember watching the replay of Game 7 of 1982 NBA semifinals. And then the Boston fans were chanting, beat LA, beat LA. But they lost to LA in 6. Dr. J was named MVP in 1981. In 1983, the Sixers got the missing element, a key center, Moses Malone. Moses Malone made his famous faux, faux, faux in anticipation of the Sixers sweeping the 3 rounds of the playoffs for the NBA title. And funny enough, Moses Malone was close. He missed out by 1. It was 4-5-4. They lost to the Bucks in the conference finals, but they swept the Lakers to win the NBA title and give Philadelphia a title for the first time in 16 years. Anyway, Irving had his all-star caliber movement, and in 1986 he decided to retire after the season. Every game he played to be sold out with adoring fans and all of that. But as I said, he never missed the playoffs. 1 season. So Dr. J retired in '87 at the age of 37. He's one of a handful of players, only a handful of players in basketball to have his number retired by 2 franchises. The Nets retired his number 32, and the Sixers retired his number 6. He was amazing at all of that. Of course, everyone knows about the 1976 Slam Dunk Contest. And that actually started the Slam Dunk Contest to the national consciousness. All that. Anyway, everyone knows about the baseline move. That was amazing when he beat Martin Landsberg on the right baseline. This is amazing. After that, Irving had a bachelor's degree through the University of Washington, University of Massachusetts, became a businessman, joined the Magic in '97 as a executive vice president. Irving helped field the NASCAR Busch Series team from '98 to 2000. And it was actually a foray into NASCAR to raise interest in NASCAR among African Americans. All that. Anyway, Dr. J, in over 1,240 regular season games in the 2 leagues, ABA and NBA, 24 points per game. In the playoffs, he had 189 playoff games with 24 points per game. It was amazing, winning 3 titles, 2 in the ABA, 74 and 76 in 1983. He wanted to play well. He really did. I love you. So yeah, he's a Christian and all that. He was married to Turquoise Irving and had 4 children. But their 19-year-old son, Corey, was missing for weeks until he was found drowned after driving his vehicle into a pond. Irving actually had an affair with sports writer Samantha Stevenson. All that. The birth of the girl Alexandra, who was actually a pro tennis player, who actually got to the semis at Wimbledon in 1999. So I didn't even know about her. Alex Stevenson. She did pretty well. Stevenson actually knew Dr. J, met her father for the first time in 2004. So anyway, yeah. And Stevenson graduated from the University of Colorado. All that. So her career, yeah. She shocked everyone. She didn't get to Wimbledon in the semifinals. Sorry, I guess I was wrong. But yeah, she actually ended up. It was amazing what she did and all that. She got to she lost to Lindsay Davenport in the semis. Anyway, yeah, Irving did provide financial support for Stevenson and all that. Irving actually fathered another child outside of his marriage. So anyway, Irving continued his relationship with Doris Madden, having 3 more children. So weird how, Dr. J is supposed to be a family man, but yet he screwed up his family. But it doesn't matter. Dr. J almost became a Raptor executive. Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady wanted him to be there, but unfortunately, the Raptors didn't reach out to Dr. J, and Carter and McGrady both got pissed off. But that's how good he was. He was influential in other people's careers. So, why not now? Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.